It is off and running. The 2026 season is underway for LAFC in dramatic fashion. Hello, Mario Ruiz. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I mean, not a bad way to start off 2026 for LAFC right there, huh? 6 goals. Woo! I love that.
And this is LAFC Plus, presented by Hotel Indigo. We appreciate you joining us here each and every week. It's episode 89, Mario. We're almost at the 90 mark, which means we're not far away from a century of LAFC Plus. And we appreciate all your support. We now appreciate, of course, very much the sponsorship of Hotel Indigo with the show. Thanks so much to them for all their sponsorship and all their support of LAFC and LAFC Plus. Off and running, as we said. Wow. We have a big game coming up in a couple of days. We'll get to that. But a few days ago, down in Honduras, LAFC started their Concacaf Champions Cup run of 2026 in style. Stilo, no doubt about it. 6-1 over Real España, and it was over before really the fans got a chance to get comfy in the stands, if you're really realistic about it. Great first game, Mario. Your thoughts initially on this start to the campaign?
Yeah, I mean, the joy in these guys celebrating all those goals. I mean, look at Sonny and Denis doing the high five. I mean, that was just incredible. But that is how you send a message to everybody else in this tournament that LAFC is for real. LAFC is a serious contender, and not only just for this Concacaf Champions tournament, but MLS and any other competition that LAFC is in this year. You best believe that LAFC is going to be a contender. And I think that for Marc Dos Santos to have this be his first match, to rack up 6 goals like that, it just goes to show you what some of his ideas and some of the things that he's really stressing on the guys early on and for this entire year is that he really wants to dominate games and score a lot of goals and just take it to teams, you know, and he really wants to do that. And I heard that from a lot of players in preseason interviews whenever I was talking to him. I said, what is Mark really, emphasizing on you guys in the preseason? And that's what they were saying. Like, they want to score a lot of goals and they want to dominate and they just want to thrash teams. And you could see that's exactly what happened in that first game in 2026 for LAFC.
Sure. A couple factors, of course. You get off and running, a PK doesn't hurt. And that was within the first minute, David Martinez beating his defender and earning the PK that Denis Bouanga buried by the time he kicked it. It was the 3rd minute of the match. But then, not just that, they finished chances, Mario. They created chances. They were pretty tidy, if we're being honest. This wasn't a game where you score 6 goals on 30 shots, right? It wasn't like they had, all these shots and just kept pummeling España in that sense. Now, they did what they wanted to do offensively, which is get up and down the pitch, create good chances. And not only that, what I think we saw that was great, lightning fast start, the passing around the 18, that looked very sharp, especially this early in the season. Well, early in the season, the very first kicks essentially in anger. And all of a sudden, you're putting balls in like Heung-Min did for that second goal to David. Oh, Sonny. Yeah. Sonny, that was perfection. And Martinez's finish was just as good as the pass itself. And the whole build-up, Mario, all the build-ups we saw in the first half especially, just incredible, really. And it looked like a game you're playing closer to playoff time, not your first match of the season.
Yeah, and one of the things that I was wondering this offseason was, what does head coach Marc Dos Santos have planned for David Martinez, right? Because sometimes last year he'd be in the lineup, sometimes he wouldn't. What does Marc Dos Santos have planned for this young sensation that has all this high expectation, who has all this potential? And I think we got a good look at what Mark wants to see from David, and if we can get that David Martinez, if we can get a lot of that this season, then LAFC are going to do big things. I mean, that David Martinez combined with Sonny, combined with Denis Bouanga, combined with all the other attackers along with this team, allowing those guys, to be risky and to create and do all those fun things that fans love to see. It's going to be a fun season if we can get a lot of that from David Martinez.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. His defense was good, very lively, very energetic. Stripping balls. Not always. It doesn't always mean you're going to get a turnover out of it. Sometimes they're still going to beat you. You're playing against other professionals, but he was putting his foot in, getting stuck in, making it difficult for Real España, causing turnovers at times. And again, he was certainly not the only one. In fact, he still has, things to learn defensively, no doubt, but he's actually come a long way. I thought he was better defensively last season than people gave him credit for, to be honest. Here's the thing, though. LAFC, it's a great start, no question about it. I don't think it's not as simple as, oh, well, look who you're playing, right? This is the best team in Honduras.
Yeah.
They're off to a very
First
good
place
start.
At the moment.
First place in Honduras. Again, okay, maybe LAFC on paper, whatever, the favorite. Yes, of course. They're better than Real España overall. I believe that. And that's not trying to be a LAFC homer. I think everybody can pretty much agree on paper, but you got to go out and do it in a hostile environment. They took the environment away.
Yes.
That's what the fast start does. This was not like, lingering at 0-0 in the 30th minute, and then all of a sudden you give up a cheap goal or something, and then you're really behind the eight ball in a hostile environment that's made even more hostile because the home team comes out ready. This LAFC took that away, snatched that from them immediately. And I mean immediately. It was 3-0 before the 23rd minute. And I think another good sign, Mario, was all three front players. I mentioned this a few times the other night in the broadcast. All three frontline guys of the 4-3-3 that is essentially the setup. They scored within the first 22 minutes. Denis and Son from the penalty spot, and of course the curler in between, as we mentioned, from David, just a perfect finish on a great setup. But they all were so active right from the jump. And look, you do that against anybody. This team can cause problems against any team in the world if you play like that with this three up front.
Yeah, I mean, you said it a little bit earlier about going into those stadiums, on the road, especially those Central American stadiums, South American stadiums where it's going to be hostile environment. You got to go in there strong for those first 15, 20 minutes. You got to be in there and you got to just stay under control. You got to just, keep it between the white lines, like Mark Dos Santos was saying before the match, is not worry about what's going on the outside. Well, LAFC it only took 3 minutes for LAFC to pretty much take that crowd out, because after that first PK, Bouanga, puts that into the back of the net, and then they just keep scoring from there. I mean, they just came out and just overwhelmed that Honduras team in front of their own fans. I mean, it's not easy to do. I don't care what team, you're playing against, to go into somebody else's home and to just overwhelm them like that with 5 goals in 45 minutes. That is pretty impressive right there. And just to take control of this series already, in 45 minutes. And now to come home, being up 6-1, to come home to BMO Stadium, you have a little bit of control, a lot of control, actually, as far as like, what do you want to do as far as strategy, maybe rotation? I mean, all that is something to think about for this second leg at BMO Stadium. You're at home with 5 goals in your advantage. So it's a lot to think about for that leg too. A lot to be excited about, because you can tell LAFC already have eyes on that next round and beyond.
Also, look, no one played badly. I mean, everybody played well. There's nothing to... But a tip of the cap to Stefan Eustachio, of course. First ever appearance for LAFC. Comes right into the starting 11 and just does not miss a beat. I mean, he delivered some great long balls, Mario. And I think, I said it in broadcast last season. Do you remember, Mario, we talk about it on this show and then in the broadcast, sometimes I would mention it, how teams were starting to just put up a high line. Even with all the speed LAFC had, Denis Bouanga, then, of course, adding Son and David Martinez can run by you. And yet teams were taunting LAFC almost with their high back line, like just really creeping up on LAFC, daring them to go over the top. And we just didn't seem to take advantage of that enough. Now, occasionally we'd hit them, but Stefan Eustachio can deliver that ball. And he did last night. And man, if Justin Campos, the manager of España, had watched some of that and thought, let's push up, see if, even though all that speed, we can catch them offside. We can, not even let them deliver that. No, you can't do that against Eustachio. He's going to deliver that pass. And he did. And it just sent LAFC's front three off and running. And of course, one of the 5 goals in the first half was really in large part due to one of those long balls from Eustachio.
Oh,
and it's not even
he
though,
played well.
Yeah. And look, you're not going to hit those perfect very often. That's just the bottom line. Now, David Martinez had one that was just, oh, golly, chef's kiss. I mean, it was just utter perfection, right?
Foot.
Yeah, I mean, I went back and watched.
Yep.
Yeah, I went back and watched the highlights, the TV highlights, and you can even hear the announcer like, "Oh, what a pass!" Like that's just unbelievable, just world class. But you don't do that very often. For 90 times you try that, right? 89 of them are going to be just a little too long, just a little too short, just a little too, wide left, wide right, too inside. That's just the nature of the game. You're going to fail a lot more than you succeed, but you have to try them, and you have to keep doing it with Denis Bouanga and Son up there to finish off those chances. And if LAFC get more, just even more kind of, I guess, deadly with that, look out. I mean, I'm not talking, we're not saying 6 goals again. You may not score 6 another time this season. That doesn't matter. That's an anomaly potentially, but you might, and you might with this offense. And, we just saw, let's not disparage España too much here, right? I'm going to praise LAFC rather than ripping on Real España for last night's game. That's how good LAFC looked to me. And,
and they look good, Dave. You know why? Because a lot of those players are returning players. Look at the starting 11. The starting 11,
exactly.
10 of those guys were here last year. You know, the only new player was Eustaquio in that starting 11. So this LAFC squad, has a chance to get off to a hot start in the Concacaf Champions like they just did, and in MLS as well, because while other teams are trying to get to know each other, getting to know their system, or trying to just gel and figure things out, LAFC is already hitting the ground running because they already know each other. They know the players already, and they know their head coach already as well. It's a new head coach, but he was the assistant last year, so they know him as well. So LAFC are just basically picking up from where they left off, hitting the ground running, and with a lot of ambition and a lot of motivation and just trophies and nothing less on their mind. So it's a good spot to be in right now at the very, very beginning of the season. We were thinking, they're going to be in Honduras. It's going to be their first real match for 2026. Can they hit the ground running with the Honduras side that's already in first place in their league? But we forget, this is a team that has a large returning core, so they already are kind of in that rhythm and already know each other. So LAFC's in a good spot early on in 2026.
And by the way, you're talking about that, the returning players and how, just look at the subs. They were starters coming in as subs.
Yes.
That's the bottom line. Matthew Chouanier among them, Nathan Ordaz, Ryan Hollings, that's your bench for this match. Come on. Yeah. That's an embarrassment.
That's one of my favorite takeaways that I saw is the depth of this team. When Marc Dos Santos started pulling in, the guys off of the bench, taking out some of the starters to get them that rest after having that lead early on. You just see these guys coming up. Tyler Boyd, Nathan Ordaz, Matthew Chouanier, Ryan Hollingshead. These guys can be starters on other MLS teams. And then there's other guys like Amin Boudry, who's one of the newest faces for LAFC, who didn't suit up yet, still getting his paperwork done and all that stuff. But even when he comes on, this squad is just loaded. And when there is time to rotate, I don't know if you're going to see that much of a drop off when you rotate. That's what's really cool about LAFC.
Well, exactly. You might see some of those guys, or maybe all, who knows, starting on Saturday against Inter Miami, right? That could just be the way they're set up to start the season. Well, Nathan, you're going to start the bench this match, but you're going to start against Inter Miami or whatever. You might not see any changes, but you may, and there's no drop off. That's the good part about that is LAFC are not 11 deep. That's for sure. They go way deeper than that. And you're going to need that. Let's be realistic. This could become a jammed up schedule the further you go in this tournament. And let's hope we win the whole thing. So let's hope it's very busy to start the campaign, Mario. But we do need a lot of that depth. Speaking of Inter Miami, we'll turn the page here a little bit, and we look forward now, as we do a lot on LAFC Plus, to Saturday coming up at the Coliseum. LAFC Inter Miami. Of course, you can hear it on 710 ESPN and the ESPN LA app pregame starting at 6 p.m. Kickoff a little earlier than usual. They got a special time there, 6:30 Pacific, for the kickoff of this starter, the opener in MLS. And Mario, we're all excited about it. But we wanted so much excitement that we wanted to debut a new segment here on the show. And we're just going to roll it. You'll get the gist of it. I'll just explain it a little bit. Booth to Booth is what it's called. We're going to be talking with the play-by-play announcers for the radio play-by-play for other teams. In other words, the teams we're going to be facing. And, of course, we start off here with Inter Miami. This is Booth to Booth, and joining me for the very first time, because this is the first time we're doing this segment here on LAFC Plus, it is Mike Rizzo, the new voice of Inter Miami on ESPN West Palm. Mike, always a pleasure to talk to you. We go back a long way. Really appreciate you joining me, but more importantly, congratulations as the new voice of Inter Miami. I wanted to give you that opportunity to just to pat yourself on the back, man. That is amazing.
Absolutely. Dave, first off, thank you for having me. Appreciate the kind words. I'll tell you what, all right, you're the one who showed me the ropes of the MLS, world football, and covering this league. Can't thank you enough, partner. And certainly, we're gearing up for a really big season down here with Inter Miami, defending champs, Lionel Messi signing on for multiple years. And listen, all right, LAFC, they're nothing to snuff at as well. Very good team over there with Son, Bouanga, and I'm excited for this matchup on Saturday.
Yeah, Mike, let's get right to it. Saturday, you think, we've talked a little bit, you think Lionel Messi going to go this Saturday in all likelihood?
Yeah, it's the injury happened against the South American squad, Barcelona. It was almost 2 weeks ago. I understand deep muscle tissue injuries are tough, but I just think Messi was trying, my personal opinion, no sources or anything like that, just from covering the team for the last 2 years, I really think Messi's trying to rest up for a big year. You got the World Cup coming up. Inter Miami's in a lot of competitions. I think that Concacaf Champions Cup is something Messi has circled as well. I just think there was a lot of wear and tear with the preseason tour. I'd be shocked if Messi doesn't play in the opener in LA coming up on Saturday.
Mike, we know the offseason was dramatic for Inter Miami. You win the cup, which is amazing. But, of course, you already know that legends are leaving. Obviously, Jordi Alba's final game, Busquets, of course, the greats, really. All-time greats, and yet seems like they reloaded here. Berterame comes in a position I think they needed because Luis Suarez is not getting any younger. Reguilon comes in. How about this team now? Despite all those losses, of course, they've done a great job of reloading this side. Do they expect to be just as good, better? I mean, they're a contender, obviously.
Dave, I think this team's better than last year. I do. And it's funny. I talked to Taylor Twellman earlier in the week. He said the same thing. With Berterame coming on in, David Ashala is a great young player who I think might step in that Sergio Busquets role. Listen, Yannick Bright, who we all thought was the heir apparent to Sergio Busquets, he didn't play much in the playoffs. And then they bring in Ayala, and he starts a couple of those games in South America. I think those two guys, Bright and Ayala, are going to be the ones that might be holding down that number 5 position that Sergio Busquets did for 2 decades in world football in the last couple of years for Inter Miami. As far as, Jordi Alba retiring, Sergio Reguilon, Dave, I'm a Manchester United supporter. I remember him when he played for the Red Devils. I remember him when he was playing at Tottenham. I mean, this is a world footballer. He's dealing with an injury, though, Dave. We'll have to wait and see what's going on there. Javier Mascherano was very, I think, strategic with how much he played in the preseason. But with Alba and Busquets retiring, Reguilon and Ayala, those are the two guys I kind of see fitting into those positions. Yannick Bright being available off the bench as well. I know I mentioned Berterame, Dave. He's the biggest transfer fee in MLS history with $15 million from the Liga MX. So I really do think that, believe it or not, coming off of a title, I think this team is deeper this year, Dave.
Yeah, he's going to score a ton. I don't think there's any doubt of that. You mentioned Mascherano. He was under pressure, it seemed, for a while there. I thought the Club World Cup, not because they made some massive run, but I loved what he did with some of the subtle changes that Mascherano made at halftime in some of those games, and really, really impressed me with his managing beyond there. Obviously, from the Club World Cup, I watched a lot. And then right into winning MLS Cup. What about Mascherano? I mean, obviously, he won the Cup, but there's always pressure at Inter Miami now with Lionel Messi there. You have to win.
Always. You have to win. And Dave, I think you mentioned that rough spell that they had before the FIFA Club World Cup. They were old. The Western Conference teams were running them off of the pitch. The middle was wide open. And look what happened when they got into form. They started playing Yannick Bright more. They started playing younger legs more. I think the two center backs of Noah Allen and Maxi Falcone really started working during that tournament. And then the birth of Baltasar Rodriguez, Matteo Silvetti. I just think Mascherano is playing that lineup that had 70-some points and broke all the records the year before. Teams were changing. Teams were getting young. And I think Inter Miami, Dave, the moment they got younger last year, that's when they started hitting their stride. They went to the Cup final in Leagues Cup and obviously won the MLS Cup. So I think the youth movement is what helped Mascherano. And now he's got more legs this year. Obviously, the season's not going to be perfect. You're going to run into some rough spells. But with how deep the team is, I'd be shocked if Mascherano has the kind of pressure he did last year heading into the Club FIFA World Cup.
It's a good point. I like that. Adding Rodrigo De Paul doesn't hurt either. I mean, it's just amazing.
Geez, and I forgot to mention the world-class midfielder that they added. I mean, Dave, they got weapons everywhere. That's why, championship or bust. I hate to put that expectation on Inter Miami, but you got to win trophies with the amount of roster talent that they have. And, Inter Miami, they've been able to win trophies 2 out of the last 3 years. We'll have to see what that looks like this year.
The man is so good, he answered my final question before I even asked it. They have to win trophies, just like LAFC. I think there's no doubt about that for Inter Miami. Congratulations once again to Mike Rizzo. He is the new voice of Inter Miami on ESPN West Palm. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be listening to you, Mike. Have a great season. Always a pleasure, buddy. I know we go back a ways, and I'm so excited. I told my wife you got the job. I was so pumped up. Congratulations once again. I look forward to it.
Dave, thanks so much. I tell you all the time, can't thank you enough what you've done for me, my world football career, helping me out. And the LA people are pretty spoiled with you over there, partner. Okay, don't think that they're getting away with nothing but the best. I appreciate
that.
Can't wait for Saturday, partner.
Have a great season, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, partner.
Yeah, I love this
booth there. Yeah.
I love this segment, Dave. Booth to booth. I mean, what a great idea, and what a way to get in touch with the opponent, the upcoming opponent, by tapping in booth to booth. You're in the radio booth for LAFC. You tap in with the radio booth over there at the opponent, and we get the latest, the very, very latest of the opponent. I love this. This is going to be cool.
Yeah, little known fact, Michael Rizzo there, who works down at ESPN West Palm. Myself, both born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio. And now calling games in MLS for Inter Miami and LAFC, in my humble opinion, the two best teams in MLS. So a city without an MLS team has two of the play-by-play announcers now that we're from. And sure, I was born probably 30 years after him, but that's cool. I mean, that doesn't really matter. He's a nice guy, good guy. Mike Rizzo, looking
talented
forward to
guy,
looking forward to his calls there for Inter Miami. He's got his work cut out for him, right? Inter Miami, you're expecting to, as he said, win trophies, and you got to be on your game, no doubt about it. Everybody has to be there. You heard him talk about, and we actually did that interview a little bit before we obviously do this show, day ago, and he talked about Lionel Messi thinking he's going to go. Well, Mario, as it turned out on Wednesday, seeing some reports or people on social media who cover the team, Michelle Kaufman, one of them, a longtime soccer reporter. Great soccer reporter Lizzie Bescherano from ESPN also putting out videos on social media of Lionel Messi in training with the team.
Yeah.
So he was working out with the team in the build-up to this. Now, again, you don't know how that, his injury responds maybe over the next couple of days, but dollars to donuts, as they say. I think he's going to go, Mario. I think he'll be there on the pitch on Saturday. That would be my guess as well.
I tend to think the same thing. I mean, I think it's just a matter of the club and Messi both monitoring his minutes and just making sure that he's available and as healthy as can be for those big matches, for the season opener, there's a tournament coming up in the summertime called the World Cup, like things like this. Like, I think the main concern for a lot of players, including probably, Sonny and Marc Dos Santos with Sonny, is monitoring these guys, because a lot of times these star players, these guys are killers. They don't want to come out. They want to be in every single minute of the game, every single game. But it's up to, coaching staff and certain people to monitor these guys to make sure that they're available and healthy for these big matches. So I think that's kind of what it is. And I know Sonny didn't play any, if at all, in the preseason. He didn't play any matches, any minutes. And that same thing. It's the same thing. They want to be arriving to Concacaf Champions games, healthy, ready to go. Same with the season opener. So I would be shocked if Messi was not out there. And there's a lot of promotion and a lot that has been built up. I mean, this whole season opener was built on Messi versus Sonny. So there's a lot of responsibility. There's a lot of promotion already out there that these guys got to be there for these big matches.
Yeah, that's part of the cautiousness, as you say, cautiousness of, not pushing it too much in the preseason. Here's my opinion of this match and a preview of this one quickly. What does this game tell us about both teams? Well, first of all, I know certainly the teams are different, even though they're very similar to what they were last season. Certainly, both expected to be real, heavy favorites in terms of teams who can win trophies, win MLS Cup. But here's the thing: what it tells me. Last time LAFC played Miami in LA, LAFC won 1-0. Good match. Last time they played Inter Miami beat them 3-1 in South Florida. So what that tells me, anything can happen, right? Like, these two teams are that good. Like, there's no clear-cut advantage. Well, look, Lionel Messi, let's be realistic, is an advantage to whomever he plays against, whether it's, Montreal, LAFC, or against France in a World Cup. He is an advantage. That's he's the best. Yeah. But LAFC now have Son. He wasn't around. There's a difference there in what the black and gold can do as a team. They shut Messi and Inter Miami out last time in LA in the 1-0 victory in the CONCACAF Champions Cup last season. So there are things there that both teams have their strengths that could be very effective on Saturday, right? So it's just a matter of, look, first game of the season, whoever comes out and does it, whoever plays better Saturday is going to win because both teams can. This is not a mismatch. Yeah. This is not this is not LAFC versus Real España. No disrespect to the Hondurans, but there's not that gap in quality where if you come out and play well, you're probably going to really thrash the other team. And LAFC played almost perfect on Tuesday. And that's what happens against a team like that. But that's not going to happen against Inter Miami. These teams are even, and yes, you want to win that first game. I want to see LAFC come out and play well. I know that seems like a cop-out, but it isn't, because if they play well, they'll be fine. That's my point. But you got to build on that first performance in the Champions Cup. You got to keep building slowly but surely and play better if that's possible. Play just better. I mean, on
coming
Saturday.
Off a 6-goal game can't really hurt you. I mean, it's good momentum. It's good chemistry, right, for the guys, and carrying that into this big match against Messi and the defending champs is not going to be easy. Like you say, it's not Real España for sure. This is a different team. But the guys are in good rhythm, coming off that dominant win like that. And attackers have to be feeling good after scoring 6 goals and got to bring that into the season opener. The passing was sharp in that first game in Honduras. The defense was also well organized. So all these things are good signs from just the very, very first game of 2026 for LAFC. Now, I know one thing happens whenever Messi comes to your town is it didn't happen the last time he came here because the game was at BMO, but most of the time when he comes to your town, teams will move the games to a bigger stadium, to a big football stadium, 80,000, 100,000, whatever. They want to, maximize those dollars when Messi comes to town, and rightfully so. But sometimes that doesn't really turn out to be a home game. I know LAFC have a strong fan base, and LAFC fans will show up. They will show out. But there's also going to be a lot of Messi fans there. There's not going to be, I don't think, Inter Miami fans, and I'm not going to say that. I'm saying just Messi fans, that follow the GOAT. They love the GOAT, and rightfully so. But LAFC also, they might be out of, their routine as far as like their own locker room, some of the warm-up stuff that they do, in the stadium or whatever. It's kind of not a home game, although it is technically a home game for LAFC in Los Angeles, but that's some of the stuff that happens when you play against Messi. These type of things that make it a little bit different, not a regular home game when you go against Messi.
Yeah, I think what this game might also tell us, to be perfectly honest, is we got to wait several months to maybe see a rematch in the MLS Cup final. There, I said it. I know this is kind of looking ahead to the whole season as well in this episode, but these two teams for me are right there and we'll be very much involved in who ends up winning this MLS Cup in 2026. And
I don't think there's that many people that are going to argue with that, Dave. I think both of these teams, just like Rizzo was saying, I mean, Inter-Miami, it's like trophies or bust. And I think for LAFC, it's the same thing. So when you have two teams like this, two top teams in MLS with stars, on each squad, it's trophies or bust for both of these guys, and I think to have that in the season opener is huge. Just to have that in MLS in general, to have a few teams that are like, oh, this is trophies or bust for us, nothing less. I love that.
Absolutely. Well, MLS does kick off on Saturday, not just the LAFC Inter-Miami massive clash. It actually begins the regular season a little earlier that day on Saturday, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. We'll have St. Louis and Charlotte FC in St. Louis for the opener of the season. It'll be a standalone game there. And then, of course, a very busy Saturday schedule, culminating the weekend with Sunday, LA Galaxy hosting NYCFC, and then Seattle hosting Colorado to wrap it up. Everybody's involved in this opening weekend, Mario. So that just allows us to take a look. Who poses a threat to LAFC, do you think? We both agree LAFC are going to be right there in the West. There's no doubt about it. With the talent they have, Marc Dos Santos is going to get this team right up there. We'll see how it shakes out. Of course, it's a long season, a lot of competitions, a lot of, tired legs and everything. We play a lot of matches, does LAFC, because we're always deep in competitions. But who's maybe the biggest threats to LAFC in the Western Conference in your eyes this year?
Right off the bat, Dave, what comes to mind is after seeing what San Diego did in the Concacaf Champions already. I mean, I know San Diego is going to be a threat again this season in the West. I mean, what a season they had in their inaugural season already, their expansion year. And I think they're up for this sophomore challenge. I think they really, really are. I also think that Vancouver is going to be a threat as well. They've had the past two seasons have been really good for Vancouver. They're being led by Thomas Muller again this year. He seems to love it there in Vancouver. And then also Seattle Sounders. Seattle Sounders are always a talk whenever it comes to the West. And again, they're going to be ready for the Western Conference. They're one of LAFC's biggest rivals in the Western Conference. So I think those three teams, safe to say, those are going to be some pretty good challenges for LAFC. But like you said, it's LAFC in the West. I mean, that's the top team in the West, maybe even the entire league.
There's also a team I think that people are sleeping on. It's a bit of a sleeper for me in the West. Okay. I agree with you on those sleepers. Three. I agree with you on those three, especially Seattle, actually. They don't really often, I won't say they don't care, but the regular season for Seattle can be a bit up and down, right? They're figuring things out. Great organization. They like to tinker a bit. Brian Schmetzer wants to play around a little bit to get the right he's not worried about that. But then when they go to the Leagues Cup, they're going to be a handful and they win. They go to the MLS Cup playoffs, you got to drive a stake through their hearts to get them out of there. So it's those kind of competitions they live for, even if the regular season maybe occasionally looks a little like, there's a 5-game streak Dave. Where they don't win 5, they draw 4 out of 5 and they're, winless. But they'll just find a way when it really matters. So I agree with those three. I think my sleeper is a team that people probably, you would imagine, still think are going to be bad, is Houston Dynamo. I'm a little concerned about them. And I know LAFC has them right off the jump, which might be good, in fact. It might be better to catch the Dynamo, certainly in a cooler weather in Houston when we play them coming up in late February, which is good. So I like that. But the Dynamo were dreadful at home, and that just doesn't usually happen. And I don't think it's going to happen for a second straight year. And I mean, they were bad at home. I'm not talking okay. They plummeted, especially at home. And before, they were not unbeatable, but man, they had a real home field advantage for years now. I think that's going to come back. Matty Bogusz, I know he's former LAFC, and I'm not just saying it because of that, but this is a guy who can score in MLS. We know that. We know he's a good player. He brings something that Houston did not have, that dynamism, no pun intended. They just didn't have that killer instinct offensively. And they have some work to do. Believe me, I'm not saying Houston's going to win the West or anything crazy, but I think it's a little bit of a sleeper pick there to keep an eye on that, might not be the greatest regular season, but they can really be a handful if they can turn that home field advantage back around. Mario, who are some of the players you're looking forward to? We all know the Messi. Of course, we're going to keep an eye on Lionel Messi and Inter-Miami's loaded roster, but who are the specific players that you like to tune into and try to catch when you watch MLS?
You just said one of them, Mateusz Bogusz. I mean, we know how talented and how much of a killer he is, and I think he's really going to do well coming back to Houston, coming back to MLS, and coming back to play against LAFC. We know his personality, so he's a killer. So he's going to want to take it to LAFC. So I think he's going to have a big year. I think he could do well when he, comes up against us. I think we got to really, really keep an eye on him, shut him down, because like I said, he's going to want to take it to LAFC.
Yeah.
Another guy that I'm looking at is Berterame over at Inter Miami.
Man.
Though that's going to be, him playing along with Messi feeding him, he's going to rack up a lot of goals. I mean, having Messi on your team could be like the best thing that ever happened to your career, especially if you're already a good player. Like he's going to finish a lot of those chances, and Messi's going to really enjoy playing with him. So I think those two guys, one from the East, one from the West, Bogusz on the West, Berterame on the East.
Yeah, I like those shouts. Those are very good. I wrote down Berterame as one of my top ones, certainly, just to kind of see how because he just scores. I mean, if you can score in Liga MX, you can score anywhere, and he just scores, and just puts the ball in the back of the net. It's a great signing too, because again, not trying to pick on anybody specific, but he's not 36. Like he's prime time here coming in his career. And there were big rumors and maybe even reports that had it close that he was going to other teams in MLS over the last year or so. Just didn't work out. Maybe I think there was one report that maybe his wife didn't want to go to at that time, didn't want to move or what, whatever, those kind of things happen. But now Lionel Messi comes, knocking on your door, it's hard to say no. And that's the bottom line as a player. And now here comes Herman Berterame, and he's going to be a handful, no doubt, right from the jump. And he is available, by all accounts in terms of, pay, all that stuff, the transfer, all that. He's ready to go. So we'll likely see him on Saturday as well. So it's going to be a good one.
You talked a little bit about rumors, Dave, of him going to different MLS teams in the past or whatever. I mean, one juicy rumor of a player coming to MLS, who knows what team it could be, but Raul Jimenez is a player that that would be I hear about coming to MLS. That would be huge. I mean, for whatever team to get him, but we shall see.
Well, the guy I want to keep an eye on, and look, it's for many reasons. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it's a train wreck. We don't, it's James Rodriguez. Let's face it. There is a reason he's always in the news, and all people always have an eye on him and always talk about him, good or bad, in a sense. But people also think at some point it happens to a player, Mario, where they start maybe changing teams a little bit more frequently later in their career.
Oh my gosh, how many teams has he been on?
But they think he struggled certain places, right? He was good in Leon. He didn't struggle, really. I mean, look, is he scoring 30 goals a season? No, that's not his game, and never really was. But he didn't struggle. He was playing well. Just he's making a move right before the World Cup here to see how that, maybe that's a factor here to get some time in MLS. I don't know that it's going to make Minnesota United so great. James can be great, and he could do that. Yeah. But I'm not sure for 6 months or whatever it is until the World Cup, not even 6 months, if that's going to really change the course of their franchise and organization. We shall see, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'll tell you that much. I'm definitely going to be watching.
The fact that it's a World Cup year, I think, is really going to benefit him and Minnesota United. Anytime he puts on that yellow Colombian shirt,
oh man,
he just turns into a whole different person, top class. And I'm sure he's going to do that again in this World Cup. He's going to turn into a world-class player like he always does during the World Cup.
Well, I like the way you put that, though. There's world-class. Look, there's great players. Then there's world-class. Then there's top class. And that is a whole different beast. And he's not always there. But as Mario, as you said, put on the yellow, he is there. And has been, really, virtually every time.
It's a joy to watch. I remember him in, the last tournament, Copa America, I think it was.
Oh, man.
He had a great tournament, and we were like, wow. I mean, just shocking, but not shocked. That's just what James does. I wonder,
Mario, if you could make a go of just playing in World Cups. Like if you're a guy who could, somehow you have enough money or you're sponsorships, whatever, or maybe you make money off the pitch, of course, like these guys do, and you just are like, I'm going to keep in shape, but I'm only going to play in the World Cups from now on. Could he play till he's 48 years?
What he's doing.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, He's going to find out if he thinks that's how MLS is, and I don't believe he does. He's going to find out it's not that, right? This is physical. This is fast. This
you
is
never
physical.
know, Dave. You never know how players think about MLS when they come to MLS.
Well, they'll find out,
the truth.
And they have.
Yeah,
You're
we're
right.
going to find out. He's going to find out. We're all going to find out. But that is the truth. I mean, some players come here and think certain things, and then they find out, oh, no. This is something
almost
different.
To a man, they find out like, it's not like what I thought it was. It's not as easy as people think it. A guy like Thomas Mueller, to his credit, kind of studied and knew enough.
Yeah,
right. He was really into like getting ready for MLS and prepare. I don't know how long he was doing that over in Germany or whatever, but he knew to his credit coming in, and he hit the ground running because of it. I think like he knew it was.
There's certain players like that, like Giorgio Chiellini. I mean, Giorgio Chiellini, when he came over, he knew about all the opponents when I would talk to him. Same with Hugo Lloris. He knows about all the opponents and their stadiums and, just the depth of these teams. It's just these guys are true professionals, really care about their craft and winning too.
Yeah. Mario, I'm going to do something here to wrap up the show for this preview too. I'm going to go to the Eastern Conference for it because we haven't talked much about that. Well, and here on LAFC Plus, we don't just do big previews of the season because, the MLS Cup final is in November, it's December or whatever, I beg your pardon. So it's so far away, things change. But I'm going to do what I call the Vanni Sartini situation. All right. And this is I'm going to the East for this. And what we've talked about on this show, and I brought it up before Vanni Sartini left Vancouver. Here's the Vanni Sartini situation. A, we think he's a good coach. No doubt about that. B, he was there long enough that it was probably time to move on, despite being a good coach. Like, despite doing well, it wasn't like, oh, he's just fallen off. He's terrible.
Yeah, and he had good players, too. He had really good players on that team, really good coach. They just needed just that new voice, right? That new voice to take them to that next level. That's what they needed.
Going out of order. Thank you, Mario, for stepping in. I apologize. But yeah, as we were saying, like you just need that new fresh start. And as it turned out, it worked for, it certainly worked for Vancouver with Jesper Sorensen. Doesn't mean it always works, It may not always work, but that's the point. And so the guy I'm talking about for this season is none other than, I think, who's a great coach, honestly, Oscar Pereja with Orlando. I think there's a point now where Orlando's got a lot of talent, and I know he is a good coach. He's done it. But I think maybe it might be like if he can't get this thing really rolling again, that, I'm looking at it like there could be some changes. You may have to
he's
go
done
that
some
route.
good things in Orlando too. Some amazing things. He like you said, he's a good coach and he's working with the talent that he has. I think he's probably a couple pieces away from really doing bigger things at Orlando. And, who knows? He might be the right guy with some bigger pieces, but I can also see, he's taking him to a certain level, and let's see what another voice can do, really to do some special things there with Orlando.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Great stuff, Mario. Awesome show as always. We really appreciate you joining us here on LAFC Plus, episode 89. Thanks for battling through. We love it. We're ready for the season coming up Saturday. You can hear us on ESPN LA 710 and the ESPN LA app. Coverage begins at 6 o'clock for the pregame, kickoff at 6:30. And once again, LAFC Plus presented by Hotel Indigo. Thanks to them for their support and sponsorship of the show. This is LAFC Plus. Mario, take us out of here, and welcome to the 2026 MLS season.
Yeah, so we're in season now. So no more preseason schedule for LAFC Plus, no more. So no more like 1 week we're on, 1 week we're off. Now we're on every single week. Every single Thursday is what we aim for. LAFC Plus presented by Hotel Indigo. Make sure you catch us on the next one next week. That's Dave Denholm. I'm Mario Ruiz. We'll catch you next one. Peace.